Noi Zion, the Rebbe will continue to explain uh, how is it that as dafke through the neshama, why is it when the neshama comes down below in Asiya, in Bia, in Asiya, in Olam Haza Tachna, Shein Tachna Mata Himenu, he reaches even to the highest level of even higher than Tihiru Ilah, than the highest level of Tahirahi. Why is it? Why is it dafke through the descent over here? That's what the Rebbe is going to discuss now. Zayin. Omnom tzorich lahavin tam hadavar. We need to understand the reason of this matter. Shedavke al yidei avodas haneshama lamato. That's specifically through the service of the neshama below. Harehi misalis libchinas nailis yoiser. She gets elevated to a higher level. Mikimoisha hoiso lifnei yiridosa, higher than the neshama was before it came down to lamata. Through coming down lamata, it ends up in a higher place than she was before she came down. To the extent, va'ad la'aliyah kazu, to the extent there is such an elevation, shehi shaloi berech madregosa hakodemes, that it's not even comparable to the previous level of the neshama. The neshama that comes down lemata reaches later on when it elevates to such a high place which is totally uncomparable to what she was before. Why is it? Why does the neshama have to come down? The inyan hu, and the idea is ki hanitzoitzos shebinyonim hagashmim, the sparks which are in the physical matters, which is in this world, sharsham ba'olam hatoihu shalamaylam olam hatikun. They are rooted in the world of toihu, which is higher than the world of tikkun. As the pasuk says, "Ki loy al halechem levada yichya ha'adam," that not on bread alone does the person live. The pasuk says, "Ki al kol moitze pi havaya yichya adam," but everything that is the moitze pi havaya, a person lives. What does this mean? The Arizal explains it's not the physical bread that provides the life for the person, but it's the spark of Hashem which is in the bread. Amoitze pi havaya, the Eibishter created the world b'asora mamoris, with the saying. So the asora mamoris, that moitze pi havaya, which the Eibishter created the world, that is Yichya Adam, that vitalizes the person. Mefarish Arizal, this is Arizal explains. The Moitze Pi Havai Shebelechem, what is that comes out from the Pi Hashem, which is in the bread? Hu Hanitzu Tzalekisha boy. That's the godly spark in him. So when the Yid eats the lechem, he gets that godly spark which is in the lechem. Why does the Yid need to get the godly spark from the lechem when he has a godly spark within himself? Why does he need the spark from the lechem? V'af shegam ba'odom yeshnei moitze pi havaya mechaya isuk. Also, the person has the moitze pi havaya, what comes from Hashem, that sustains him, vitalizes him. He needs the moitze pi havaya of the bread. Why? Because everything which is higher descends lower, even lower, which means the higher you are, the lower you come down. So we need the piyavai in the lechem because the spark, the moitze piyavai in the lechem, comes from a very high place and it went down further into the lechem. And that's why the person needs the piyavai, the higher piyavai, which is in the lechem. What is the metaphor? Where do we find the metaphor, the mashal for something which is higher to go down lower? So he says, mashal ha'even hanimtzaz b'reish ha'choim. For example, you have a stone which is on the top of the wall. So you have a wall made up of stones, and you have some stones are in the bottom of the wall and some on the top of the wall. Hine, so the stone which is on the top, kasher hine feles lamato, when it falls down below, hare hine feles berichuk yoser min hachoimo, then she falls further away from the wall, then the stone that was lying within the middle of the one on the top lies further away. So that's the metaphor. And that's why. The moitze pi Hashem, which is in the bread, fell below further than the moitze pi Havaya, which is in the person. The spark in the lechem fell further than the person. How do we know that the spark of the lechem fell further than the person? Because within the doimim tzemeach chai, that's from the level of tzemeach. Sharei halechem u'mitzemeach. The bread comes from the growing thing, and therefore means that it came down. If you try to compare it to the Adam is the medaber, is the higher level, and the bread is tzemeach. Further, the Rebbe says, at the time that it comes from tzemeach, but the time that the person is consuming it, it's already doimeh. Ubefrat, especially shebeis ha'achila, the time that you're eating it, var einei tzemeach im doimeh. It is no longer, it's not a growing, it's inanimate now. So at that point, the pi havaya, which is in the lechem that you're eating, is all the ways in the lowest and level of doimeh. And v'oidzois and further, so shachilas lechem hi im melach shudoimim melach shudoimim. You eat bread, you eat with salt, and salt is doimim. So basically, the Rebbe wants to say that the activity of eating bread with salt, you're eating sparks that have come down to doimim. Bread comes from tzemeach, and the salt that you eat with the bread is doimim. And that means that is lower, because the person who medaber, he's on the level of medaber. So this itself is evidence. The fact that the doimim, the fact that the tzemeach that you're eating, and it's low, that it's in the level of tzemeach and doimim, so that itself is evidence. The sparks that are found in the bread, they're rooted higher than the moitze pi havaya that's in the person. Gam me'adam ha'elyain b'chinas tikun. They are higher even than the Adam ha'elyain, which is the level of tikkun. Their chayis comes from a higher source than Adam Elyon. ולכן דווקא על יודום יחיה האדם שלמטה. So that's why through them the spark vitalizes the person over here. Ha'adam shalamato, the person below. V'al yidei zeh, and through vitalizing the person, lamato ha'adam elyon kaviyachol. The level of the Adam ha'elyon tikkun, the level of tikkun will get, so to speak, will get from the level of Toya. So that's the point that the person, by eating the daimon, is taking in a higher spark, which elevates. And that elevates the person, and it also elevates all the way to the shayrish of the person, to the level of the Adam Ha'elyon, the supreme Adam Kaviyach. And basically, it's being mamshich from Toyu into Tikkun. To point out another idea over here, which is explained elsewhere at length. Over there is explained the difference between the world of Tikkun and the world of Toyu. Both. The world of correction, the world of chaos, Tikkun and Toyu, were both created with the supreme will. Ella sheba'olam hatikun hu ba'oifun didain hanyan li. These I enjoy. The world of Tikkun is the world that Hashem enjoys. Uba'olam hatoyu hu ba'oifun didain loy hanyan li. That's in a way that these don't enjoy. I don't enjoy. The Eibishter creates them both. He says from the Olam Hatikun he enjoys. Olam Hatikun loy hanyanli. I don't enjoy. Behind. So what does that mean that he enjoys this and not? He enjoys Tikkun and doesn't enjoy Toyu. Behindu the Olam Hatoyu yeshnei haratzon elyon. That means that also in Olam Toyu there is this supreme will. The Eibishter wants them both. They're both created. The Eibishter's Ratzon. Elo shu be'elam v'hester. But over there in Olam Toyu it's hidden and obscure. Ubegilui, but openly what you see, hu inyan shel hepach harotzon. It appears openly as against the will. The dain lo hanyanli. I'm not enjoying them, which means he doesn't want them. And that's why from the Olam Ha-Toyu, what evolves below, how does it come from the Olam Ha-Toyu and the Olam Ha-Tikun, which the Olam Ha-Toyu, the Eibishter wanted it, but Begolui, it's Loi Hanyanli, doesn't enjoy it. Shehonyonim shenizhavu ma'olam Ha-Toyu, that those matters that were created from the world of Toyu, even though that openly they are matters which is against Kedusha, the Dain Lahanyan Li, those he doesn't enjoy, meaning that it's not Kedusha. Mikol Makoim, nevertheless, Gam Bohem Yeshno. Nitzoitzos the Kedusha, also in them exists sparks of Kedusha. Also, in openly, it looks like not Kedusha, Toihu, but there is sparks of Kedusha. The Adarabeh, not only do they have sparks, but the Kandavka Bohem, Yesh Toikev, they have a force. Shall is the Tohu, of the lights of Tohu. So the Rebbe brought down two inyanim. One inyan that what comes down lower uh, comes from a higher place. So toyu is from tikkun, is higher, comes from a higher place, and that becomes through consuming the physical matter in this world and mevarer them and getting the nitzitzis, as the Rizal says, moitze pi havaya, which comes from a higher source. And the second idea is that the olam ha toyu, while openly appears to be against the rotzen, but it also has, it is really high, Eloi Hanyali, but it also has the rotzen elyon. Hidden, it has the sparks. Not only does he have the sparks, he has them because they come from toyu, they come with more force. So because of all this, the neshama that gets the opportunity to be in this world gets to go up to a higher place than when it came down. And this is through the neshama coming down below. She gets elevated to a higher level than the neshama was before it descended. So why is the neshama going up higher? How does the neshama go higher than what it came down is because it worked with the Gashmi Shezeu, Mitzad Habirurim Shalanitzutzes Da'ilam HaToyu. That is because of the Birurim that took place with the sparks of the Da'ilam HaToyu. Shal Yidei Zeh, through working with the sparks of Toyu, Yoresh Ha'eres de Toyu, he inherits the lights of Toyu. So you get a higher level. Shezehu inyan moirosho kihilas Yaakov. This is the idea, an inheritance to the community of Yaakov. We inherit. What did we inherit? Yaakov, which is tikkun, inherits the toyu, inherits this higher level of toyu. And this all happens through the neshama coming down in this world. So now the Rebbe says, within this world, those matters that fall even to the prohibitions, where there is a mitzvah loisas, that means that those sparks come from even a higher place, because the higher they are, the lower they fall. So things that you can use and do, that's mitzvah saseh, but to fall to a place, what you can't do, that is a lower level, that falls even lower. That means that the sparks that are in loisaseh come from even a higher source than the sparks that come in the mitzvah saseh. V'hinei, because you can't even deal with them directly. It's only by not using it. Ches. Based on this rule of above, the whatever is on a higher level falls lower. Then it must say, we're forced to say, that also within the sparks of toyu, all that falls even lower than something else in this world, has a root from a higher place. Move on. So this we understand. That there is an advantage what we're mevarer through the loisaseh more than the berurim of the mitzvah saseh. The im heyoy shegam hanitzoytzes shebedvorim gashmim shabahem hukiyu mitzvahs asay sheshorshom me'olam hatoyu. When you sort out the sparks of that, the positive mitzvah, when you fulfill the mitzvahs asay with physical matters, so you're dealing with sparks that come from the world of Toyu, because they come down into the Gashmizdike things in this world. The Gashmizdike things in this world come from the world of Toyu. But yet, Mikol Makom ein hanefila behem kol kach. but their fall is not so much. Because they are permissible items that come from klipas noiga. But when you talk mitzvahs loisas shehein b'inyonim shehein asurim ukshurim b'yedei achitzonim, then you're dealing with matters that are tied in the hand of the chitzonim. That's why you can't use it. You can't, because they can't elevate it, because you can't use it. They're tied with the hand of the chitzonim. Harei gufa hichocha. So that itself proves to us that the root of the sparks that are dressed in the loisas is even higher. And that's why al yidei ha'avoda, the mitzvahs loisas, when you're working with the mitzvahs loisas, meaning not doing it, gam b'tchilas ha'avoda. Also, when you start working with the loisasa, which means it doesn't turn around the sins to merit. God forbid if a person actually sinned, so then his avodah would be to do teshuvah and be mahapech, to turn around that the sins, the intentionals become merits. That's already down the line on a greater level. But also in the beginning, when you don't turn them around, but you're just pushing them away. So you have an urge to do or to eat something not kosher, let's say chaz shalom, and you push away that urge. You're getting a body getting a higher level. Nimshach oir naila yoser mikmoi b'havodah. You bringing down a higher level of light than the avodah, than what you get by working with mitzvah. So because over there the spark is something that you can't use, you can't eat, means that comes from a higher place. So when you work, do the avodah, and you don't do the mitzvahs loisas, you're getting from a higher place than the spark that comes from the mitzvahs asay. As explained in Likutei Torah, the mitzvahs asay shaychus levavke. The mitzvahs asay have a connection from the name of Hashem to the letters of vavke. Bechinas, because we say over there, hanistores laHashem Elokeinu, vehaniglois lanu levanenu. So the niglois is the vavke. That is shaykhis to the vavke. Bechinas vehaniglois. And the loisas have a connection liyutke. Bechinas hanistores laHashem Elokeinu. That is the hidden shmi. That the number comes out over there. But the bottom line, it says in Likutei Torah that mitzvahs aseh have a connection to vavke. That is the lower level of the Shem Havaya. That's the vav. The bechinas v'haniglos, that's the revealed level. The loisas liyutke, that bechinas hanistonos laHashem Elokeinu, that's the hidden level. So yutke versus vavke, you see that the level of loisas is a higher level than the level of asay. Another reason he says in the parentheses, v'gam yutke hu shem kodesh b'fnei atzma. You can see yutke is a holy name by itself. Vavke is only part of the name Yudke Vavke. Without the Yudke, there's no Vavke. Doesn't mean anything. So that means that the level of Yudke is higher. That's the level of Loisasa. Shahachiluk beinehem. So the difference between Yudke and the Vavke and the S and the Loisasa chiluk shebein aroich. It's a chiluk that has no comparison. It's a total different. The sparks and the level you get from the loisas is totally uncomparable to the sparks you get from a mitzvah saseh. Ubechlolus hu ha'hefresh ben pnimi le'er makim. Generally, that's the difference between the inner light and the surrounding light. The mitzvah saseh mamshichas pnimi shehu hamislabish b'kelim. The positive mitzvah, they bring down the inner light. They bring down an which dresses up in kelim. That's a finite, a limited light, the molecule almim. And then Loisa said they bring down a surrounding eye that cannot be contained by the kid. So the mitzvah Loisa is a higher source, brings down a level of makif, and the mitzvah saseh brings down a level of pnim. Hine, my lazu b'mitzvah Loisa legabe mitzvah aseh. This advantage of Loisa over Aseh, Hugam Kasher Havoida Binyone Loisa Hirak Ba'ofer Shel D'chiyah. That's only when his Avoida is pushing it away. Pushing away a Loisa will give you a higher, uncomparable light than doing the mitzvah Aseh. But Malachas Kama V'Kama. How much more so? Kasher Havoida Bahemi Ba'ofen Shemahapich Hasdeinus L'Zechuyus. If the Avoida is in such a way that he turns around his sins to merits, meaning through tshuva, then he actually brings down a light which is totally incomparable higher, even than the light that comes through loisasa, when you got to push it away. But when you turn it around, it's an uncomparable light, even to the light that comes from loisasa. Understood that this idea is doinus becomes like zochias. That's only through tshuva, the avodah tshuva. So that tells us you can't even do this normally. The usual way to midim kisidram, the orderly of the normally binyonim asurim. How do we deal with things that are prohibited? Hirak b'derech d'chiyah, by pushing it away. So here, to turn around, that's tshuva. B'hefresh sheben beis avedus elu u'chiluk sheben aroich. The difference between the avodah of pushing away and the avodah of turning around is an uncomparable difference. Kemuva mekamo mekoimis, as understood from many places. Shehefresh beinayim, that the difference between the level of teshuvah and the level of d'chiyah, it's like comparing limit to infinite. Like we see in time, that the service of teshuvah is in one instant, in one moment. It's not measured by zman, it's uncomparable. As opposed to normal work, that's measured behemshech v'shetach shel zman, in the continuation and the area of time. The Rebbe says also mokem. So therefore, that level of working with the loisasa, when you got to do teshuvah, you be mahapich them. That is that's a level of blikvul relative to the avodah of the chiyah. So mitzvahs asay are not as high as mitzvahs loisa, said the sparks bein aroich, and the level of turning things around is bein aroich to the level of the chiyah. And the Rebbe will continue to discuss now how the service works with the Liראיך, but we'll continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Over here.